Hello. Welcome to a video that I've been meaning to do for quite some time. I've wanted to sit down for a while now and watch a bunch of my shorts and do a little audio video commentary on them. And for some reason, I felt like now was the time to do it. So these aren't necessarily in chronological order as far as when I made them, but they're in an order that makes sense to me. Starting off, let's just dive in. What are we waiting for? Starting off, we're going to watch House Mother. Here we go. Play. So Amalgam was a title I used for a while with my brother-in-law Luke for some videos that we made while I was at Nerdist. I was like, I want to make my own content because this job isn't going to last forever. And I formed Amalgam Studios, and we made some viral shorts. A lot of people don't know. We made like a lightsaber short with Maleficent and Sleeping Beauty that had like 1 million views. I made a video with our wonderful singer dressed as a zombie Ariel, and we did a zombie Part of Your World parody that got 1 million views. Anyway, House Mother. Okay, this idea originally came, I thought of it more as a comedy where it would be like Kristen Wiig plays this evil house mother, and it would be like a parody of 80s movies. But somehow that morphed into something a little more straight-faced. And I wrote the script, and it was something I was going to try to get financed partially through Nerdist and partially through other possibly interested companies. And as I always do, I got antsy, and so I decided I just want to make a short that we could use to help raise the money for the feature. And at one point, the short was just making the whole intro of the movie. And then at another point, it was rewriting and making a short from scratch that just kind of encompassed the basic premise of the movie. What we settled on, I don't know why I feel so rushed in talking here. What we settled on was something that I don't think was the best format to make as a proof of concept. What we settled on is basically one scene from the feature. The actresses involved are all amazing. That's Shelby. You may recognize Emily Rudd from the current Fear Street movies. My friend Jessica Parker Kennedy, Gabrielle Walsh, Jesus. The blonde is an actress named Lexi. It's a lot. It's a lot to unpack because the imagery is so inherently triggering. You know, these girls with this stuff drawn on them. But in the context of the feature, that's exactly what we unpack, is why is this sorority house built on breaking each other down and shaming each other? And House Mother symbolizes the source of that shame. But ultimately, these girls band together and fight together as friends. So it's, and I don't know, putting that imagery out there to try to make a healthy point is a little dicey. I don't know if the short acquits itself, but I know the feature does. This was also, I don't think it was my first time working with Barbara. I think I worked with Barbara Crampton on an Onyx episode of Welcome to the Shadow Zone first. But I don't remember if this came before the Nerdist sketch Groblins or the Funny or Die video, The Dangers of Having a Chainsaw for a Hand. But Barbara had never gotten a life cast done before. And we worked with the amazing special effects makeup artist Bruce Spalding Fuller to bring House Mother to life. I fucking love the way this looks. I'm looking at this right now, and I'm like, maybe this is an okay proof of concept. I'd at least have this guy direct something else, right? It's just hard when you try to take a feature and say, what from this could I shoot that would convince people that the feature version of this would work? I don't know that this piece does that. Does it? You tell me. I don't know. If you watch this, do you think I want to see the feature? My comedy and my kind of absurdist take on horror elements is creeping in here. I don't ultimately know if it works. A lot of people looked at the design of the monster and said, LOL. I like it. I like the big stripe in her hair. I know there's a film in me that makes the heightened, exaggerated stuff work within a horror context without it going into parody. I know that tone is correct for me to be seeking, but I don't know if House Mother gets it completely right. The feature does, though. And then these are glimpses from other scenes in the feature. I don't know, man. I'd make that. If I saw that, I tell you, there's so many, like, sizzles and shorts that just don't work on any level. I'd be like, let's take a meeting with that guy, I think. I'd say, I got to read this feature because I don't know from your proof of concept if you've fully convinced me that a feature based on this premise would work. But then I think I'd read the feature and I'd be like, never mind, it does work. Hey, I think you rip. Rocky also is the name of the other actress. Everybody in here was really fantastic. It was a hard 2 days. We had to be delicate about the situations people were being put in, and I think everybody felt like we navigated that stuff with the right amount of delicacy. So I'm proud of it ultimately. You know, it's weird. I have a tendency to catalog things as failures because it didn't lead to a House Mother feature, or maybe it wasn't the right section of the movie to shoot. But then I watch it and I'm like, I think that kind of rips though. I can tell that there's good stuff going on in there. But the hard thing is, in this industry, you're always trying to convince other people to see the same thing you see, and they might just ultimately not see what you see. I'm going to let it run through the credits because it'll give me time to talk about other stuff. I also, you got to remember, every project leads to relationships that could lead to connections on other projects. I mean, I still keep in touch with Barbara. She's a delight. And I think ultimately, as a filmmaker, your goal is to find your voice and get a handle on your voice to where the disconnect between what's in your head and what makes it onto the screen gets shorter and shorter each time, to where eventually you're a filmmaker that the ideas in your head, they come across crystallized. And you got to make shorts that maybe misfire in areas to find that voice and to calibrate it. So I think House Mother did that for me. I was like, okay, some of that stuff in my head worked, some of it didn't. The Onyx movie, though, to me, is all of that stuff working, because the Onyx of it all insists upon a certain absurdity. So it's almost like he brings my voice in a way that makes the tone make sense. Okay, so this is a short called Secret Santa. Used to be on a YouTube channel called Amalgam Studios, and now it's on Bowser Vids. Again, Emily Rudd from Fear Street. So nice of her to come out and shoot this. We shot this partially at the offices of Nerdist. I just had an idea. I just wanted to shoot a horror Christmas short. I'm constantly giving myself exercises. I mean, that's what you have to do. If the big leagues ever call me up, I won't be out of shape. You know what I mean? Figuratively speaking, or creatively speaking, because I've been exercising. And any filmmakers or artists that struggle with, what's the point of me making this? What's the point of me making that? No one's going to see it. The point is you're exercising, okay? And if you ever get bigger opportunities, you're going to be worked out and you'll be able to go the distance. If I can mix all sorts of sports metaphors and analogies in there. My buddy Ian shot this. Ian passed away a few years ago, and, you know, we were partners on a lot of this stuff. He made Worm with me and my brother-in-law and his brother, JD, and he appears as Santa Claus at the end of this short. This is a perfect example of the kind of short you should give yourself as an exercise. You say, what's a small concept I can shoot at my office, steal some shots through a window at a gym, and then shoot back at my apartment for the final shot? And just run yourself through the cycle of structure. Does it work? Does it add up? Yeah, I think for the most part. A girl's getting messages that say, I'm your Secret Santa. She thinks it's something exciting. And then, spoiler alert, it's not something exciting. It's something terrifying. Again, did I think this would lead to a feature or a bigger project? Not so much. I think this was just kind of an exercise. Just something to have on the Amalgam channel, something to have on my reel that shows another style. But we shot that for nothing. I don't know why I fade up on these. I think it's because this was for the end card on the other YouTube channel. So for some reason we jumped to Psychopomp. I don't know why we jumped to Psychopomp. The short that would have gone in between these two was Mystic Museum, but I can't upload that to my own channel. So maybe I'll put, oh, and it doesn't exist on the Nerdist channel because there was a guy in their platform department that hated me, and he took down a lot of my content for no reason. So Mystic Museum doesn't really exist anymore, which is a fucking bummer. Okay, but that's actually a great transition into Psychopomp. This was the first thing I shot after leaving Nerdist, and for so long, my voice as a director was a voice for hire, because you're making comedy videos that that are ordered by your boss. You know, let's make a Star Wars parody video. I mean, a lot of times I'd get to build out the creative and with the writers pitch what we make, but the order is clear. The directive is clear. We need to make an Avengers parody. We need to make something that talks about the Game of Thrones finale, etc. So after I left Nerdist, I wouldn't say I was depressed, because I actually felt very free after leaving. But it takes some time to find your voice. What would I make if nobody asked me to make it? What would I make if there was no deadline or number we were trying to hit? We got to try to get 1 million views on this. Or we got to get written up by this place or this many places on this video. And Psychopomp came out. And what I think is fun about Psychopomp is that it got me back in touch with this weird part of my voice that isn't so mainstream. I mean, God, is Onyx even mainstream? I don't know. But I more mean the tone and the pace and the mood isn't mainstream. It's a little more in between. It's like in this slipstream of kind of dreamlike, kind of scary, but kind of not, kind of friendly, but kind of puts you off. This uncomfortability, and that's in there somewhere. And that's a natural part of my rhythm as a writer and a filmmaker, but it's very, very specifically explored with certain projects and then very specifically unexplored with other projects. There's certain projects that feel like they need to be broader, they need to move quicker. They don't ruminate, and they don't just sit around cultivating a tone. This is like a tone poem. But there's still story in there. But again, it's an exercise. Let me shoot and edit something without anybody telling me to, and without anybody looking over my shoulder. And what do we get? So it's an investigation into certain emotions and visuals that I thought could be fun to see. You know, I've talked about this a lot on different podcasts, but I grew up with really bad nightmares, and I still have really bad nightmares. And I know somewhere in me is a movie that is more scary than funny. But I'm not there yet with what I'm ready to offer as output, if that makes sense. I'm investigating this tone with shorts like Psychopomp and shorts that come a little later in this video. But I don't know if I yet have a feature in me that is all this tone. You know what? That's not true. My friend Olivia and I wrote that feature. We wrote an outline for a feature that is squarely in this tone the whole time. And I could see us making that. We were going to make it during the pandemic, but it would still cost, like $10,000 or $20,000, and we just couldn't do it. And I basically opted to launch the Onyx Kickstarter instead of pursue making this thing. What I've been really impressed to see is that people on my channel like this, which is really encouraging. And I've thought, even just since wrapping the Kickstarter, about being more consistent on the channel talking film. So we'll see. Maybe if people like this video, I will do more of that. We're getting closer and closer to full pre-production for the Onyx movie, so I might as well keep uploading and talking film. Maybe I put up less sketches and shorts and do a lot more talking about the process. It does something for me. I don't know what it's like for everyone else, but for me, making a short like this is the equivalent to scribbling an emotion down in a journal or painting something. This is like a quick burst of expression that I just feel the need to get out before I can move on to other ideas. This isn't made with the intention that a House Mother is made or Little Willie is made with. This is not meant to lead to a feature. This is like, gotta get it out. I got an itch and I gotta scratch it, and that's this. And I think investigating the intentions behind certain projects is healthy, because if a certain project didn't lead to what you intended it to lead to, you kind of need to do a post-mortem and figure out why. I may pop around a little bit and talk about other shorts, because I have a current draft for House Mother that I love. And watching Fear Street, I'm like, House Mother would rock for this very same audience. It's even more put together and tightened up now than ever. I was working on a rewrite right before I started the Onyx script. Anyway, I hope my camera doesn't run out of space. And I also apologize. I think there's trucks doing stuff across the street. So this is something that I like putting in every movie. This is my tone, really, no matter what form it takes, whether it's experimental like Psychopomp or more straightforward like Little Willie or Onyx. It's marrying the absurd with the grounded. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's because it's baked into my personality. But the idea that a man, in a very grounded manner, would call up the mask maker and say, you know, I don't know if there's some kind of curse on the mask, but something caused these visions to come into my head. And you know, obviously, if that were the case, I would like a full refund. It's the commitment to the absurd, and it's the lack of wink to the camera. I should have done it that way. It's the lack of winking around the absurd. That's what I love. And I'm trying to think of examples of that in I mean, you know, there's elements of like, when I think of Patrick Bateman, there's elements of how he chose to play that role that hit that like, what he's saying is insane, but he's coming at it from a very committed place, which I think would serve me well in a lot of other genres. I mean, not to compare myself to Christopher Nolan, but, you know, his whole thing was like, I just want to take Batman seriously. My thing is like, I want to take the subject matter of these absurd shorts seriously. Even Little Willie, you know? That exact tone is at the end of Little Willie, when I'm talking to Zach and Adrian, and I'm saying, there he goes. He's moving around the room all by himself. Can you believe it? Just that commitment to the absolute absurd. This wound up actually being more involved than I thought. Like, there's VFX shots in this short. And when I shot it, I was like, oh, I'm just going to shoot a short about me getting obsessed with this mask. And you'll also see, like, I talk about this when I did that video about how to make a movie on your own about green shit, is you look at what you have, you know? And I do that a lot. And I build a lot of things off of the idea that you could make a movie just based on one person interacting with an inanimate object. One person becoming convinced that this mask is showing them visions from hell. One person becoming convinced that that doll is talking to them. Green Shit was entirely built around me and the elements. And then you find the story that has that those resources have space for. And I actually reshot this scene. It was weird to reshoot a scene for something that was meant to be done so quickly, but yeah, we realized I went too big the first time we recorded it. Like, I was crying and emotional, and it almost felt like that tipped over into asking for too dramatic of an engagement from the audience. And in a weird way, it like got out of that slipstream. So we redid it. I mean, even him doing that hand motion, it's like, okay, dude, what are you talking about? You know? I love it. even Jimmy Tupper versus the Goat Man of Bowie, if anybody's watched that, I mean, that's the thread is him claiming he saw something that makes absolutely no sense to almost everyone else in the world, but he's committed. And these are dreams that I've had since I was a kid, specifically these rocks, and I don't know how to explain it. I put that in a script once, put this exact thing in a script once, and the producer that was reading it was like, "What the fuck is up with those rocks?" And I was like, it's just something I've had in my head since I was a kid, and I know there's a way to give them like a horror movie weight. Like there's a way to say these rocks are frightening. And he's like, dude, get the fuck out, dude. And, maybe he's right. But this kind of shit taps into the side of me. I always say I'm inspired by Michael Haneke and Joe Dante. Like those are my two papas. This is like drawing on the Michael Haneke side. Whereas, Little Willie and Onyx obviously lean into the Joe Dante side. You got a little nip on camera there. You can screenshot it and brighten it up if you really want to see it. This is a fun little thing. You see the shadow go by. That's fun. I think if you were watching this late at night, it's just meant to feel like an anomaly. It's meant to feel like a weird, glimpse into somebody's interior life who's cracking a little bit. And you'll see these elements bleed into the next short, ASMR, which is a guy getting obsessed with an ASMR artist. Little Willie, guy becoming obsessed with the doll. Another short in this runner of shorts is a guy getting obsessed with a video that he saw online. And it's funny, somebody that criticized the Onyx script recently called out Onyx for being obsessive. And I won't say whether or not they framed it as a negative or a positive. They were merely saying, you've got a very obsessive character. And I was like, obsessive? I don't really know if I would define Onyx as obsessive. But it's funny, watching any of the shorts that I put myself in, it is always a man dealing with an obsession of sorts. And that obsession almost always leading to his demise. But I think that comes from my personal struggle with OCD, which I might have talked about on some podcasts, but I've never gone too deep. But I used to have very severe struggles with OCD, debilitating at times, especially during times of high stress or anxiety in my life. I'd have these flare-ups that were really, I guess paralyzing is the word. I've always liked that idea, though. A door opening before you can get to it always freaks me out. And so I think I deal with obsession as a theme. The weird thing is, and I've recognized that obsession really goes nowhere. The lesson I've learned through the kind of treatment I've gotten for OCD is like, dude, there's nothing there. It's your brain is telling you there's something there. Hey, if I think about that thing a little bit longer, there's something there, right? There's something there? No, there's nothing there. It is a labyrinth. It's a trap. And that's why a lot of the shorts that deal with obsession ultimately have that ending. This isn't going anywhere good. You can't find anything out by obsessing. You really can't uncover any truths from fixating. It's just a fucking hurricane. Yeah, and this really, this and ASMR go directly into Little Willie, for sure. It's almost like these little shorts kind of start investigating a theme, and then I usually do a project that approaches the theme on a, I guess, more accessible level. And, oh, that was gnarly. I wrote down in my notes the other day that if I hit 40 and I haven't had any mainstream success, I just go full Haneke. And I just make this shit. I just make the shit that's in my head that seeks no audience, serves no clear purpose when it comes to the landscape of mainstream cinema. And, you know, we're getting there, y'all. A lot of people after watching this, I had a number of people say, "Are you suicidal?" And I don't mind talking about that. I am not, and I never have been. And I think that's important to denote because people do struggle with that. I don't. What I do struggle with is fixating over death. When will it come? Why does it come for some? And others avoid it for longer. What will it feel like? I'm going to pause because I think I should change my camera card to keep rolling. But I would say I fixate on death as a concept, but I do not ideate on the notion of suicide. And I think that's important. And I think artists need the freedom to investigate things that might have suicidal imagery like this, because that is how we exercise a lot of that curiosity around the subject of death in a healthy way. Might sound like a cop-out, but I think that's why horror films can be healthy. I think that's why violence in movies can be healthy. I think that's a lot of times in Haneke movies, not to compare myself to him 10 times in a row, but he is investigating these heavy concepts in a way that's confrontational and upsetting, but I think it's for healthy reasons. I think it's for ultimately a healthy purpose. Okay, so why don't we consider these two parts? That was part one, Bowser Short's commentary part one. I'm glad there was a truck outside making noise the whole time. I think that's cool. So we'll do part two in a little bit. Thanks.